Hello, and welcome to the CEO of Starve Network. I'm your host, Indesha, the CEO. The purpose of this show is to educate you on the importance of financial literacy and entrepreneurship. So on tonight's show, we have a very extensive show. It's going to be breaking down, I like to call it the elephant in the room. It's something that doesn't get addressed. I mean, it's a system that we all know to have and all know to be living in, but we don't like to talk about this topic a lot, right? And that topic is capitalism. Capitalism, okay? So I'm gonna be breaking that down, what it means, right? The essence of it. I'm gonna be breaking down where it derives from, where capitalism derives from, and how it affects us today. So this episode's topic is about capitalism. So the definition of capitalism is an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit rather than by the state, right? So as American citizens, you have the right to wake up and sell a product or offer a service. That's your right, right? That's how this country, one of the ways this country, it was formulated, right? And, you know, my brand is CEO of Starve. We're a consulting firm and we help people start businesses. But the fact of the matter is that this capitalistic system has not been beneficial for everyone, right? There's a aristocracy that is, you know, that has polluted and has corrupted capitalism, okay? It has made it to a point to where as though that people are able to benefit, that everybody's not able to benefit from it, all right? Now, before capitalism, they had something called mercantilism. Now, mercantilism is when people, you know, they simply made a product and they sold it, right? There was no system attached to it. And that's the thing about capitalism. Capitalism it had a system that came along with it, and that's what made it so powerful, right? That's what made it so much of a thing that can be duplicated and, you know, pushed on to other nations and other people, right? So what is the history of capitalism? Capitalism did not come into effect until like the mid-14th century, around 1450 in Venice, Italy, to be exact. Capitalism was known by this guy named Luca Pacioli, an Italian mathematician. Is known to be the first author ever to publish a book on accounting called Summa di Arithmetica, published date 1494. It's been said to be the most important invention until the birth of the joint stock company and the modern factory. In the book, Pacioli introduces the principles of double entry bookkeeping, which gradually becomes standard practice in all companies. So with his book and with his contribution to accounting, this is the standard of which businesses run today. He also used to run around with Leonardo da Vinci as well. He's also known to be a contributor to accounting. So this system that we all live in today is just one of the isms, right? Capitalism, socialism, and you have communism. And it's often debated amongst intellectuals and amongst people that are, you know, that are interested in having governance about which system is the best system to have, what system is the best to be under. You know, Cuba is one of the places that that they have a socialist system. A communist system or socialist, either is one of the two. But they have a way to where as though that their government pretty much controls everything, right? We live in a capitalistic system as we know. So The question, how was capitalism developed? Capitalism was first developed, however, around captured Africans. A young ship captain named Adam Goncalves, who sailed to West Africa in 1441 to acquire seal skins and oil, had a covetous plan to increase profits. Goncalves, along with his crew, kidnapped less than a dozen captives to bring back to southwestern Europe. All right, so that's how capitalism really was developed, okay? It was developed off of enslaved African people. A whole economy was built around them. A whole economy was thrived off of their free labor, right? And that is something that people may not know, but that is the inception of what this country was built on. How was capitalism developed? Goncalves' voyage in 1441 is widely considered to be the mark of the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade. Notably, the treatment of blacks was addressed in 1452 and in 1455 when Pope Nicholas V issued a series of edicts and granted Portugal the right to enslave sub-Saharan Africans. So an edict is a decree or law of major importance by a king, queen, or other sovereign entities or governments, right? So the Pope at that time in Europe have a lot, and even till today, have a lot of power. They have a lot of say-so. So they had, he had published a series of edicts that that pretty much said that, you know, slavery was accepted, right? Slavery was to be accepted. Now, Pope Nicholas V's series of public edicts from 1452 to 1455 and mathematician Luca Pacioli's contribution to accounting in 1494 will later serve as the catalyst for developing the system of capitalism for the New World America founded in 1492, right? So once we understand that, then you understand that it is important that you understand that these two systems in itself are the contributing factors of how this system was, how it came about, right? So it was the combination of the two that made it to where as though that the capitalistic system has been developed and how it came about, right? So as a result, it was Spain rather than Portugal that first made extensive use of enslaved Africans as a colonial labor force in the Americas. Soon after his famous 1492 voyage, with the backing of the Spanish crown merchant, Christopher Columbus established the first European colony in the Americas on the island of Hispaniola. And that is today really is Haiti and Dominican Republic, right? So a lot of times people say that Christopher Columbus is known to have discovered the Americas, but he didn't discover the Americas. He was lost on the voyage, and that's where he ended up at. Now, furthering discussing how capitalism was developed. The Spanish crown intended to protect the Amerindians from abuse, but at the same time expected them to accept Spanish rule, embrace Catholicism, and conform to a work regimen designed to render Spain's overseas colonies profitable. But in the Spanish Caribbean and the Amerindians, rapidly declining population led Spanish colonists to look elsewhere for laborers long before the 1540s. With the Portuguese slave trade thriving, they increasingly looked to Africa. So it was well known that the merchants that used to capture the African slaves off of the coast of Africa, they started to really go on in droves, right? Once they got the green light from the Pope that it was essentially illegal to capture and kidnap people, they start going in droves all over Europe to and capture slaves, and they start bringing them to different parts of the country, to different continents, right? South America is another place that a lot of people were, a lot of Africans were dispersed there, and this was business, right? And it shouldn't be mistaken that it was business, right? It was business, and it was something that they seen was to profit them, and unfortunately, it was at the expense of people. The dawn of the 16th century show how Iberian administrators and colonists rapidly came to rely on enslaved sub-Saharan Africans as means of supporting large agriculture and mining enterprises in the America. So it was because of these things that these industries were created. It was because of their labor. It was because of the free labor. The free labor enabled industries to be created. And that's how the wealth and different industries were established at a point to where as though that it made it aristocracy, right? It made it to where as though that these things were so coveted by family members, it's hard for you to even penetrate certain industries because they have a monopoly on it. Industrial capitalism. So industrial capitalism is what we know today. It's an economic system that relies on the investment of capital in machines and technology that are used to increase the production of marketable goods. The idea was first introduced in Britain in the 19th century. So once we fast forward up to the 19th century, and understanding that capitalism was first brung about by the mathematician Luca Pacioli. He was the first person known to ever publish the first book on bookkeeping, right? And understanding that the connection of his invention and also the Pope legalizing the sub-Saharan slave trade was a foundation, it was a catalyst to a system that was used and that is used currently to this day as capitalism, but now is mainly known as industrial capitalism is what it has morphed into now. So understanding that when it comes to, building a business, right? That's the inception of it. So that's what it is at its antiquity, right? But what I want you to understand is that the system has never been designed for people to really flourish, right? You have to really understand that the essence of it is the ownership of property and the ownership of land. And that's how you're really able to build, you're able to build dynasties and you're able to build substantial wealth. So it's something that, like I said, it's something that can be argued, whether if it's capitalism, socialism, or communism. You know what I mean? That's the debate among intellectuals often, or which governance is most beneficial to what we know to be for human beings, right? So, again, the purpose of this show is to educate you on the importance of entrepreneurship and financial literacy. And I need you guys to understand that if you're not fighting, right? If you're not trying to bring about, real change for yourself and for your family, then it's going to be real difficult to really get ahead. It's going to be really difficult to really make things happen for yourself, right? And I know entrepreneurship is something that despite its inception, is something that it gives you an opportunity. It's going to give you an opportunity to really build. It's going to give you an opportunity to have a legacy, because, under any other governance or any other system, you know what I mean, you're not going to be able to have that ownership. You're not going to be able to have power to own property. Right now, you can own property. You can have assets and things of that nature. So once you understand that, then you understand that entrepreneurship is really the way to really to get ahead in life. So I'm your host, Indesha, the CEO. Again, the purpose of the show is to educate you on the importance of financial literacy and financial entrepreneurship. And that's my time for the show. Thank you.